YouTube may have a filter where my face will not be allowed to be videoed. It could be a natural algorithm that says, oh, hell no. I could be violating community standards right now. We don't even know it.
Let's see. All right. So tonight we have Cuan from, is that how I pronounce that right? Cuan?
Perfect.
From Atlanta. He is the current king, and apparently he's won more crowns than I've had birthdays. So, and pretty phenomenal fighter. He was recommended by Duke Timothy to be on the show tonight, and so we figured we'd get him on here and get his take on his 5 principles or 5 methods of being a better fighter. So we're going to turn the table over to him and have him get started.
Good evening. Good evening, Atelius. Thank you for asking me to do this. I think the first thing I need to do is lower expectations. I'm no Paul Bellatrix, and I'm no Duke Sean. And I'm not very good with beginning fighters. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to do here, I thought about people that I have helped along their career. And I decided that we would focus on intermediate fighters. And by intermediate fighters, I mean upper level unbelts and those who have just been knighted and are trying to find their path. Because some people get knighted and they step into a whole new realm of competition. They lose focus. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They've had their eye on the prize for so long. They're not really sure what to do once they get it. So I've had some pretty good success helping people finish. And the reason that I'm not very good with beginners is because when I'm giving them information, I get excited. And whereas a really good teacher knows how to give a beginner only as much as they can process, I want to show them all the links. Like if you put your feet here, then you can pass here and you can throw offside onside. And then you can turn that into a feint, and then that opens the leg. And so I get a little too excited about it. I love to fight. I've been fighting for over 30 years now. And so what I want to focus on tonight is intermediate fighters, okay? So number 1, exercise and fitness. I've done it both ways, guys. I was a football player, a discus thrower, lacrosse player, a wrestler. And, you know, once those competitions end, one of the things that the SCA gave me was a way to continue to compete, both as an individual and as part of a team in melees. And that's important. But when I started, you know, physical fitness wasn't necessarily one of the aspects of fighting that was stressed. And we get older, we work real jobs, we have families, we have kids. It's easy for that stuff to get away from you. And, you know, your balance, your speed, your strength when you're 6'3" and 300 pounds at 25 starts to slip away from you at 30, 35, 40. And then I had some rather serious or critical health issues. So number 1, and I like props, so I've got props. Number 1 is exercise, all right? I got a kettlebell here. I keep kettlebells at home. We got a rowing machine here. We got a bench out front. And I work out at a small gym with a trainer when I can. I'm trying to get back in shape. I say I've got the world's dumbest hobby. I've lost the same 100 pounds 3 times. And so literally the same 100 pounds 3 times. And
you and me both.
Fitness is important, right? Fitness is important because the longer you can stay on the field, you know, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So the longer that you can stay on the field, the more chance that you have to process what's happening, the more chance you have to have a meaningful experience, practice or pickups at Estrella or Penzic or whatever, the more chance you have to actually take in some meaningful information. Now, it's really important that you exercise for the sport you want to do. javelin throwers and bobsledders and wrestlers and Olympic powerlifters don't necessarily do the same types of workouts. You need a basic level of fitness for whatever it is you want to pursue. And then you need to try and tailor your workouts to what you want to do. As Rob Duke Dietrich told you the other night, what we do with fighting is you can have a lot, and I think Attilia, she pointed this out, especially the upper levels, you can have a lot of circling, a lot of positioning, a lot of level changing, and I mean that physically level changing as you move around the Eric or the list field, whatever you like to call it. But then there will be a burst of activity followed by a pause to see what that activity wrought. Sometimes, like Paul says, you're fighting a guy who, the scream and leap guy. And sometimes you're fighting a guy who can do very bad things to you in a 6 or an 8 blow combination. So having the fitness to weather that storm and to stay behind your shield and to move your feet properly is very important. And that gets much easier if you have a basic level of fitness. I highly recommend everyone to go back and watch Dietrich's videos on his HIIT, his high intensity interval training, his weapon Tabatas, and those sorts of things. I think those are very, very important to our fighting currently. And I think he's got the right idea. And obviously it's worked very well for him. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because other people are better at that and have more experience, and they've already told you. So the second thing I want to move to that we haven't talked a lot about, and I watched Paul and Floki and I watched Dietrich, and I've known Sean for years, and I've watched his videos, is equipment, okay? I want to talk about equipment. A lot of times, fighters spend a lot of time fighting equipment. Now, what I told you when we started is, I'm not good at teaching beginners, okay? So I'm not worried about beginners in this, all right? I'm not talking about Al-Anon and Sean and Bronis and Jade and those guys and Uther. I'm not talking about experts, okay? Kyle. And I'm certainly not talking about Jedis, right? I'm not talking about Paul, all right? I'm talking to intermediate fighters here. Intermediate fighters are the guys who start to clean up around the edges to maximize their win percentage. When I say that, I mean they make the right choices from cup to neoprene knee braces to footwear to arm harness to helmet. They make the right choices for gear. So what are the right choices for gear? Well, let me start by saying that I've done Battle of Nations. I've been to France. I fought with the U.S. team. I got the injuries and the dents to prove it. So I fought completely armored, and I've fought in sports armor. I'm not here to make a value judgment about what you want to get out of your fighting. So if you want to use hockey elbows because you don't have 10 squires to clean your spring steel, and you can throw those hockey elbows, I hope, in the washing machine every couple of practices, that's great. They work great. And they're very affordable. I understand that the SCA needs to be open to people from every walk of life with all different amounts of money to throw at this thing and all different amounts of time, because you got to have one or the other. You can have time or money. If you have time, you can make a lot of your own stuff. If you have money, you can buy anything you need, but you got to have one or the other. So I'm not here to make a value judgment about how accurate your portrayal is. We have a 10-foot rule in the SCA that works pretty well. So I want to start with the feet and go up, all right? Your footwear. We fight on some crappy fields. We fight on dry, dusty hardpan. We fight in ankle-deep mud. We fight in snow. If you live here in Atlanta, you fight swamps. You fight over rocky terrain. We run through the woods up at Cooper's Lake at Penzic. So you need to have good footwear. So when I'm going to be doing a woods battle, I recommend a light pair of tactical boots. The ones that I've been using are Under Armour because they're all black. They don't carry any blazing modern logos. And then I have greaves that come all the way down to the top of the instep. to disguise those a little bit. And if you look at Paul uses these exact same type of boots, these 3/4 boots or ankle boots, and he covers them with leather spats, all right? The effort that you take to cover them when people are looking at, to check off the boxes for knighthood, covering the boots is very important, okay? Other options, you've got your Bohemond boots. I've had these for 20 years. They've got a hard rubber sole on them. They need to be resoled, but they're a generic medieval looking boot that's pretty good for combat. You can go with those, all right? And then if you want to go another step up, you can get a fairly medieval looking boot, but then before HMB banned it, we took these very medievally boots and we stuck aggressive Vibram soles on the bottom of them. So I frequently fight in these, and those fit under steel case greaves. That's very important. So feet are important because your feet are where all the fighting starts. You have to be connected to the ground. You have to have your feet in the right position. I don't care if you fight sword leg forward or shield leg forward. When you're starting out, it's easier to fight shield leg forward because we fight in a system where one shot's the off button. So if you present your defensive side forward to begin with, you have more chances of picking off your opponent's shots until you get that one shot that's going to hit his off button. So most new fighters learn to fight with the shield foot forward. I know that's a trend that's changing with center grips in the SCA, and I think that's fine and exciting. But if you slip, if your foot shoots out from under you, if you twist your ankle, you're going to get hit before you can fall, or you're going to be out of the tournament because you've injured yourself. So footwear is absolutely important, all right? So moving up from the feet, your knees, got to protect those knees. Hanging knees are fine if they're bulletproof. You heard Dietrich talk about knee problems. Articulated knees act as a knee brace for your knee. They're great, but the rivets have to be set far enough out to the edges of the articulations so that they actually articulate. A lot of armors I've noticed use the slop method. Is a rivet with a loose washer on it to allow their plates to just sort of fold in the slot provided by the rivet. It's not a good idea. So if you want to invest some money in knee armor, if you've got bad knees, it's a good idea. I always wear neoprene wraps under them. I like the ones with 3 tabs because I don't have to, take my shoes off to get rid of my knee braces when the fighting's done. But those neoprene braces, they keep your knees warm. They keep everything tight. It's not like a McDavid brace, so you're not locked in like a lineman at Oklahoma, but they will keep your knees in good shape. All right. Then moving up from there, we got to talk about how you're going to suspend these legs. The thing that I'm using right now that I like quite a bit is from Craig Nadler, and Valkyrie Forge has the same kind of product. I use that one as well on some of my rigs. It is a quilted fabric belt. See how thick that is? But it's got a leather belt and buckle on the ends, leather belt and buckle on the ends. And then it has these leather tabs sewn on the hips that have all the holes you would need to set your leg armor anywhere you want. Craig Nadler, it's very inexpensive. The belt is not straight. As you can see, it's got sort of a curved profile. And that allows it to hug the hips and hold things very comfortably so you don't put strain on your hip flexors. Some people use a leather belt that rides down on the hip flexors, and after a couple of field battles, they're hurting. So I like that as a leg belt. Now, some people use motocross gear under Viking pants. That's fine. I'm just talking if you're going to hang cuisses or thigh armor from a belt, that's a very good option, okay? Because we don't want to be fighting our equipment, right? We want to be able to focus on our opponent's sword hand. We want to be focused on the tempo of the fight. And we don't want to be worried that we've blown a rivet because we got bad knee armor. We don't want to be worried that our legs are hanging low and so I'm getting hit in the knee because my thigh armor is now actually on top of my kneecap. That all happens. So we want to focus on that. Hey, hi, how you doing? Very important to get them started young, all right? Now, if you're an intermediate fighter and you want to make one improvement to your kit, I'm going to tell you it's got to be the helmet. All right. The helmet is the most important piece of armor we have because obviously it protects your brain bucket. It keeps your smarts where they need to be. And so helmet, in terms of competitive fighting, I have the greatest respect for people who fight in a top helm or any kind of closed-faced helmet. I have a great deal of respect for them. I own several closed-faced helmets, but my money helmet has always been the bassinet with a grill. I've used this helmet for 20 plus years now. Okay. And this helmet just has a grill face. It has a heavy chain drape, which means short neck guys like me don't have to wear a gorget, which is very nice, right? It spreads out on my shoulders. The chain's heavy enough. It's a Newt Camel, Master Newt Camel, and it has an ablative effect on thrusts and things that are coming in towards the throat. It'll just catch them, and it protects your throat, okay? So you got that. Now, that's a custom-made helmet. If you don't want to go the custom-made helmet, I picked this version A up at Gulf Wars last year for $250. It has I picked this up from Eric, Master Eric, who does the rattan sales, right? Munitions grade arms. This has a cage face and a replaceable rapier face. This has a perf steel face that goes on it for rapier. It just hooks in at the top of the brim and then straps around the cheek plates. And it's got a plume holder. So for like a later period look where you can wear a doublet and stuff like that, it's a great helmet. It's like $250. I mean, you just can't beat that, right? And it's a very safe helmet. So the helmet is very important. Next, I want to talk about your hands, okay? So if you're fighting a lot of sword and shield, the most cost-effective thing you can use is a basket hilt, right? But you got a lot of choices in basket hilts. I'm going to show you 3 of the best. You can have a high-end stainless steel basket hilt. I regret ever showing this technology to Duke Dietrich, because Duke Dietrich was using tip-heavy swords. And I showed him a heavier basket. This is a stainless steel Bedford basket. And what this does is this makes Dietrich's moulinets and his rotations, his onside offside rotations, even faster. So this was a huge mistake. Okay, so that's one style of basket. Another excellent basket that's very affordable. Again, this one's from Valkyrie Forge. We call these the Baldar basket, right? Very, very safe, very protective. The current model, no problems at all, and it gives you plenty of room for even big hands in there. Now, my only complaint about the Baldar basket is a totally personal choice, right? I don't like all that extra room. I like a tighter basket. So then Brian at Darkwood Armory came up with this beauty here. This is a tempered spring steel. It's ultra light. It's a tempered spring steel basket. And I put a 3-finger trigger in here. I'd gone away from triggers for years. And then talking to Duke Sven from ASTR, I decided to put triggers back in my sword. So this basket is an ultra thin spring steel cup hilt. Again, it gives you great protection to the back of your hand. And then I use that with a matching spring steel half gauntlet, which gives you all the room that you need to make any kind of rotations that you want to make. And that just sort of locks in nicely with that, like that, okay? All right, the idea is my equipment is not hurting me, right? I'm not digging my wrist. Everything can flow nicely, whatever I want to do. It's no problem to do because all my equipment works harmoniously together. And I can wear that with a little, I wear a little, Under Armour sells a little baseball protector, which has a hard pad right here. You take it out of the foil, when it hits the air, it starts to harden. So you stick it in the sleeve and you put it on your arm and it shapes to your arm. Why do I do that? Because sometimes in combat, I come down across the top of your shield with my wrist, okay? And so having that little bit of protection right there allows me to suppress, especially a strap shield, allows me to drive down through the top of the shield and then deliver the first 6-8 inches of the sword. It's an extremely powerful blow in tight quarters. So again, I'm protecting those bones of the wrist, mostly because I have extra bone in my wrist from not doing it for about 15 years. So I've got calcium deposits in places you shouldn't have calcium. Okay? So basket hilts are very important, but a basket hilt has to work in conjunction with a sword that has a handle that's been properly shaped. I'm a detail guy, so this is my basic sword handle shape. It is the bastard child of Duke Paul's almond-shaped grip and Michael's pistol grip, okay? So it's much narrower at the front than it is at the back. It tapers to make a ring with the thumb and the forefinger, okay? But it fits very comfortably in the hand, and it indexes the blade with the front edge of the handle, okay? It is unfailing in the fact that I have a ridge down the handle where I can always feel where the edge is when I'm throwing, okay? Now, the way that I make these swords, because I still make my swords for my knight, Duke Anton, and the Queen, and pretty much everybody else in my orbit. I make all the swords because this is what happens. They come to you, they go, oh, you make the best swords, Cuan. Will you make my sword? And then you end up making their swords. So I use a DeWalt grinder, okay? And this is an 80 grit disc, okay? And what I do, and I stole this from Michael, what I do is I clamp the sword in the bench like this, okay? And I draw, you can see the Sharpie line. I draw a line from the front to the back, right? Front to the back, the way I want the blade. Then I draw that line up the back of the handle and up the front of the handle. And I've already measured where the basket hilt goes, right? So I define out where the handle is. With the blade clamped in the table, all I have to do is take that 80 grit disc and that'll eat that thing up pretty quick. Then I flip it over, do it again. Then I take a scraper, like a carpenter scraper. You could use any flat edge, scrape the shavings down. Might need to sand a little bit, but usually I just put grip tape on it. I put like hockey tape. I don't use friction tape because it just tears the palm out of your gloves. Hockey tape's enough, okay? And that'll fit in any basket. I also use, I switched to using shaved rattan. I used to only get rattan with the husk on and leave it on the front edge. It's just, they just don't last long enough to worry about it. It is a luxury to get shaved rattan because you're going to get a lot of it, but having a nice flat cylinder of rattan that's straight is just such a luxury that it's one that I give myself. So I go with that. Now, if you don't have like I said, if you don't have a 4.5 inch side grinder to put a sanding wheel on, then just get your granddad's spoke shave. Everybody can find a spoke shave. You can go to any tool auction, get a spoke shave. This is how I always used to do it. Spoke shave and sandpaper, right? You can get the basic shape by drawing the, not spoke shave, draw knife. By using a draw knife, I have a spoke shave too, but that's a whole different thing. But anyway, use your draw knife and then finish it up with your sandpaper, okay? So I think, you're like, well, why is Cuan spending so much time on the weapons? All right, I go to a lot of wars where I pick up somebody's weapons and it's a round stick with some duct tape rope wrapped around the handle to make it stick to the glove. Those guys aren't generally winning their fights because, they're throwing flat or, their hand is fatiguing or they're not, there's a reason that hockey sticks are shaped like hockey sticks. There's a reason that baseball bats are shaped like baseball bats. And there's a reason that I shape my swords the way I do. It's because they lead to me hitting edge on way more often than not. And they just help me feel like I have a weapon in my hand and not a long piece of grass, which is basically what rattan is. So I take a lot of care with my weapons. I also use hurricane tape for my taping. It's a product that's like the old strapping on your outdoor lawn furniture. I don't know if you can see that, but it has two directions. It has strands in both directions. It's hurricane tape. It's extremely tough. You can't tear it with your hand. You have to cut it. All right. Then, when we're speaking of equipment, those are we talked about sword making. You need one of these. You get a 2-pack of them at most Walmarts with a foam ball for about $4. It's a foam bat. Foam bat is really nice because when we're sitting in the house here, or I'm sitting around at an event on Friday night and we're still in street clothes or with the hotel, I'm not going to take out a lamp or a friend with the foam bat. But the foam bat allows you to do a lot of techniques slowly, and there's just something about seeing the stick, the extension of the arm, moving in space that makes it a lot better than holding a beer in your left hand and just moving your hand, right? So get yourself a foam bat. All right. Great weapons. If you're going to fight great weapons, you gotta either spend the money on a set of good hockey gloves with hand shields, and I mean hockey gloves, not lacrosse gloves. Lacrosse gloves don't have a hard thumb. You need hockey gloves with a hard thumb, or you need to invest in a pair of gauntlets. I use Gretter gauntlets because they had to survive steel fighting, so I use Gretter gauntlets. If that's not in your budget, that's fine, but you need to get yourself. You can find good gauntlets. I was checking today. You can find good gauntlets for about $250. It's completely safe gauntlets for about $250. And if you think about the cost of one visit to the emergency room for hand injury, it's well worth it. Now, you can use plastic covered with leather. You can use Kerbally hardened leather to cover your hockey gloves. You can use some of the Torvalder gauntlets, the hardened leather. Some of the toughest armor I've ever seen. Elbows, van braces, hockey gloves. He does a great job. But you've got to keep those hands protected. Because if you're on the path to knighthood or you're looking for certain goals, tournaments you want to do well in, hand injuries will put you down. They will stop you from fighting. So you've got to protect those. Body armor. That's a very individualized choice. I would say you got to make sure that your body armor rides no lower than your belly button. The first set of body armor I made when I started in the SCA, I got a sheet of leather from Tandy Leather, and I made body armor, and I thought it should go down to my hips until the first time you drop to your knees or you have to move, and the bottom of your body armor, bites into your hip bones or even your thighs. If you look at real armor, that bend point is up here around your belly button, okay? So you got to keep that armor higher than your hips. That's really all that I want to say about equipment. Be happy to take questions later on the equipment issue. My next thing, so we've talked about exercise, we've talked about equipment, Pell work. When I started fighting, I did about 1,500 blows a week on the Pell. And I did it slow because the point is not to check off that you did 300 Pells on Monday night, 300 Pell blows on Monday night. The point is to place those blows properly and to deliver them with proper technique so that 6 months from now, when you've done 9,500 blows and you're in that tournament, that flat snap goes exactly where you want it to, okay? And so this is different than doing Tabata. That's more of a fitness thing. That's more of a conditioning thing. This is making sure that you refine your technique by putting those blows on the Pell, on that piece of tape till you knock that piece of tape off the Pell. And what I generally would do is I would divide that 300 blows into 50-50, groups of 50. And so I would start with flat snap. I always start with flat snap. You know why? 90% of the fights in the SCA are ended with a flat snap. 90% of fights in the UFC, I don't care if it's between Uther and Al-Anon or, you know, Sean and Kyle, whatever, I don't care. It's probably going to be ended by a flat snap. All right. What's going to happen is eventually somebody's going to step wrong. Somebody's going to read a leg and their shield's going to dip this much and they're going to eat one to the temple. Okay. So your flat snap needs to be sharp. If people aren't afraid of your flat snap, then they don't have to be afraid of the rest of your toolkit. All right. So that's very important. So I start with a flat snap, and then it's very easy to go from the flat snap to the head down to the offside leg, or flat snap to the head, flat snap to the leg, head, leg, head, leg. Okay. And you do them slow. You do them slow until they're perfect. Okay. Then you can move to a 3-blow combination. But the point is, I would get 1,500 blows a week after work and, you know, before events. So it was pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Sundays. Because Friday night was traveling to the event, Saturday was the event, and Sunday night we get home, get unpacked, and get back on the Pell. Sunday night's a great time to do it because the things you experienced over the weekend are still fresh, and that's a great time. No shield. Don't worry about the shield. You should hold your hand in the shield position that you use in your stance. But let's keep the shield out of the way, all right? Now, if you manipulate your opponent with your shield, if you do presses or hooks, that's fine. Make that motion with your hand, all right? But keep that out of the way so you can really see what you're doing and really focus on the sword arm. Now, if you're doing your Pell work incorrectly, then all you're going to do is train yourself to throw your blows incorrectly. So make sure that any blow that you're working on the Pell is one that you've gone over with a teacher, an expert, you know, the highest level of expert that you can get at your local practice. Figure out the way they do it, and then put that into it. If you don't have that level of expertise at your practice, then you're going to need to go online. You're going to need to watch some videos. We'll talk about that in a minute. There are books that you can go to, and you can develop that Pell work from there. I use one of those water-filled bases with a padded punching bag that fits around it. I can get that up to over 6 feet tall, and that allows me and allows Signe, who's only 5'1½". We can use the same Pell. I don't have to beat the dog crap out of it, but I can do all my blows on it. I can put pieces of tape on it. She even stitched a canvas cover for it so we don't tear up the vinyl. And that's what I use for a Pell. The next thing I'd like to talk about is film work. I really believe, and we didn't have this when I was starting out. We would take video. We used to use the old, the big VHS cameras where you had to take like a white trash bag and put, you know, you had to get the white focus on it, right? And then we'd film with huge batteries or 80 feet of extension cord and see what we came up with. Now you've got people uploading instructional videos all the time to the internet. And there you go. And I really like watching those videos. One, it helps you make book on other fighters. But more importantly, there are some guys doing fantastic work out there. I like to watch videos of Sean. I like to watch videos of Uther. Uther has some drill videos out there. Branos has a whole library of videos that I think are very good. Paul Beltrix, he's got videos. Dietrich's got videos. I like to watch old Logan Evanwolf videos. There's a lot of video out there. I know I'm leaving people out. I wish Al-Anon had more video on it, but there's a lot of video out there that you can take advantage of. Books, all right? So you got film work. That's what we used to call it. Football is doing film work, right? Videos, watching videos. And then you got books, all right? I highly recommend the Bellatrix system. I've learned so much from Paul, and I would say that even if I, you know, didn't give a review in the book, he's a great guy who has spent his lifetime trying to perfect our art. He comes to Penzic every year for no other reason than to teach people how to fight. You know, that's a commitment. Flies from the West Coast every year just to sit up on that field every day and teach people how to fight. And he's got a lot to teach. I like Hugh Knight's longsword book. Ordered this one, The Knightly Art of the Longsword by Hugh Knight. I like that one. There are several books out there that you can get and other resources online. And the thing that I like about the longsword book is you can go look at the old feck books and everything, but there's a lot of research to indicate that those feck books were advertisements. They didn't tell you what you needed to know to use what they wanted to teach. They showed you enough to get you interested in hiring the master and bringing him to your town, your castle, your keep, whatever. And then he would teach you how to make sense of these pictures, some of which are pretty crazy, right? So Hugh has all the terminology in here. He's taken the time. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. And, you look at Dietrich's success with the longsword. It comes from studying period longsword techniques and really being able to execute those. So I believe in film work. I believe in books. All right. Last thing is helmet time. There's no replacement for helmet time. But time is the only thing now that they're making new islands off the coast of Bahrain or wherever. We used to say real estate's the only thing they didn't make any more of, but that's not true. They make more real estate now. So now time is the only thing they don't make any more of. Okay. So when you get the chance to practice, you need to optimize that time. Figuring out who's top dog at your local practice is worthless. Okay. It doesn't do you any good to go out there every week and beat hell out of the guys that you beat hell out of last week. That's not a way to learn. That's just a way to remain a big fish in a small pond, right? So what you need to do is get some structure to your practice, okay? If you go to practice, you should have 1 to 3 things that you want to accomplish at that practice, okay? I recommend that you talk to your comrades, to your practice buddies about what it is you want to work on and what it is they want to work on before you get there. If you do that, you will find complementary interests, right? So one guy may be worried about blocking his leg. Maybe this guy cannot block a leg wrap with a passing step, right? And maybe you're working on perfecting your leg wrap with a passing step, all right? Or maybe you're the guy who can't block, right? So maybe you can help him figure out how to move his feet, because usually it's the feet that are the problem. You can help him figure out how to move his feet to block that passing wrap. And then he can help you learn to, feint that wrap and turn it into something else, whether it's, coming offside, then the wrap, no, it's a rising flat snap, whatever it is. And you can work that, right? And so you do a pass, you try to get the back of the leg, he blocks it, you go, great, you move to your next technique, and then you back out, right? I liked what Paul said the other night. If you're going to spar, if you're going to full out fight, and, I like to save that to the end of the night. I like to do the sparring towards the end so that you have to draw on your reserves. The beginning of practice when you're fresh and when your mind is focused, that should be when you're trying to learn new techniques or master techniques that you've been working on. Sparring should come at the end, and I like the idea of doing 3 fights. Why? Well, for one thing, a lot of formats that we do are best 2 out of 3, okay? So if you're going to spar, then you can make that sort of like combat conditions, right? Achilles and I are going to fight. He's got 3 fights, okay? And we're not going to keep score. We don't care next week who got 2 out of 3, or if it was 1-1 and we don't care, right? We're going to do 3 passes because that's, when you get to the semifinals of Crown, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get 3 passes, right? When you get to the finals, it may be 3 out of 5, whatever. But you're always going to deal with that sort of format in a lot of tournaments that you go to. So I like the idea of doing 3 fights and moving on. So when you get that helmet time, make that about getting your feet right, working to polish the things that you've been working on, and not about counting coup on your opponent, okay? I'm open for questions. I'm willing to expand on anything I talked about. But anyway, I'll turn it back to you, Achilles.
All right, perfect. That was very informative. Um, just kind of recapping on your fighter practice, we refer to that as winning fighter practice. You don't win fighter practice. It's pointless to win fighter practice. And thank you for diving into that, because between me and Vigabrand, we also have that same issue of going and just beating the hell out of each other and then calling it a day without actually very much training involved. And so we're actually chatting back and forth right now, listening to you about changing our fighter practices, because this isn't the first time it's been brought up. So thank you for bringing that up and kind of like cementing that in my brain. All right, Achilles, it's time to change fighter practice, because winning fighter practice doesn't get anything or anyone anywhere.
Well, you can make that the capstone fight. I mean, that can be the end of fighter practice. That's the way you finally wear yourself out, right? Because having to fight when you're really tired, having to fight all out when you're really tired, will help you in the semifinals of Crown. It will help you in the semifinals of Candlemass. It will help you in the big Antarian tournament that Ursul's or whatever that just went out of my head, but Silver Dollar or whatever will help you in the last rounds of those tournaments. So there is a value to it if it's put at the right part of practice. But we used to call guys, in football we had a term, Thursday All-Americans. And they're the ones that came out when we were all in half pads on Thursday doing walkthroughs, and we're trying to ring people's bells. We call those guys Thursday All-Americans. So you want to avoid that.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to say, because I know I talked about equipment, and that's a little different from what other people talked about, but I'm trying to throw some different stuff out there for people to think about. We're all under some form of social distancing or in quarantine or stay-at-home orders. This is all stuff that you can think about. We're all going to get some, or a lot of us are going to get some extra time over the next couple of months, probably. And so I want to say there are no magic bullets, right? I'm not trying to prescribe a sword or a basket hill, footwear, armor, anything that will, lead you to godhood, right? But every little distraction, every painful armor bite, everything that inhibits your movement, everything that you can eliminate like that and make easier for yourself will make you a better fighter, because you can focus on the stuff that's important. You can focus on tempo and timing and range and all those kinds of things. There are no magic bullets except this. This is a magic bullet. This is a slug and 236 caliber balls from a Taurus judge. This is a pretty magic bullet. And this would win all your fights, but it would lead to other problems. But so, yeah, this is a magic bullet, but there isn't one for our fight.
Perfect. So, all right, if you're open to some questions, I will. I've been challenged to start these. Sir Helga has challenged me on your list of 1 through 5. For you, which one came the easiest during your time of training, and which one was the hardest for you to accomplish?
Helmet time, practice, one-on-one. What my knight would tell you is, everybody has something that they're best at. And as a younger fighter, what I was best at was balance. My knight identified that I could throw a killing blow from any position. And so even if my technique wasn't good, I could catch and frustrate a lot of people on one leg or off balance or diving to the right or whatever. It was weird. But the point is, so that part came easy to me. I've always been fairly successful on the field. Making the decision to lock it down and do Pell work to try and get better technique is extremely difficult for me. I've always been interested in woodwork and crafting and making stuff. So trying to optimize my equipment, also fairly easy. But the easiest thing was getting out there and trading blows with people. And the reason that I had to lock it down and go to Pell work is that as a young fighter, I was throwing a thing we call a snap wrap. And the reason we call it snap wrap is because it comes off the shoulder looking like it's going to be a flat snap, goes almost all the way out, and right here, you just turn it, right? And really experienced fighters told me what that does is it gives you about 2.5, 3 inches of deflection and gets over the back edge of the shield and pops you in the back corner of the helmet right here, right? Actually, right here. And it was a very successful, it was very fast, and it looks like a flat snap. So if you're fighting heater fighters, they get that front corner of the heater up, they think they've got it. But the snap wrap allows you to get that angle of deflection around the corner because the shield is slipping down like this and pegs them right here behind the ear. Well, I was told that I would pay for that eventually, and eventually I did. I had to have 18 floating bodies taken out of my elbow, and this arm, that's that arm, that's as straight as my right arm gets. Okay, so that arm's straight, my left arm's straight. My right arm will never be straighter than that. Okay, so surgery and everything else. So I don't throw that blow anymore, but I rode that thing hard until it hurt me. So, Paul was talking the other night about he doesn't want to teach anybody techniques that will injure them. They need to be applicable to all fighters. They need to be that was an unsound technique, and I paid a heavy price for it.
Got it. That actually leads me into my next question. What are some of the things you wished you would have done for like starting out, or what can you recommend to us that are just getting started? Or I know you don't work with newer fighters, but newer fighters that will prolong their SCA careers. What are some of the tips you would give them to do that?
Well, I do work with newer fighters. I just end up confusing them terribly and overloading them. And then they go over to another guy and says, well, take the back half of what he told you out and just work on not coming out with your sword side and getting hit in the ribs, right? Forget what that will lead to. So I really wish I had listened to the guys who'd been fighting for 20 and 10 years when I started, who said, yeah, you're going to have a lot of success with this technique. You're going to have a lot of success with that blow, but it's going to hurt you in the long run. I've had to reinvent my fighting several times because of that. I started pretty young. I won my first crown in 1992. And, I was young and strong and I was going to live forever and be indestructible. And you're not. It's just not true. All of those injuries are going to add up. So I wish I had really listened. And I didn't, I hadn't met Paul at that point. So, it was pretty local. And, I wish I had listened to the guys who were local who said, you're going to pay for that later.
So listen to the people who know what they're doing on their techniques and critiques. Okay, the last question that I have been asked to ask is from Isfile. It's from Facebook, and he says, in my experience, the upper tier of the heavy fighters tend to be some of the most gracious among the group. In your opinion, is this true? If so, do you think it is developed along the path to get to that stage? Is it from serving as crown or something else?
Wow. Hi, Ismail. That's a really good question. All right. So first, we all wear our ass on our shoulders sometimes. But I think what happens is most people quit this sport. Most people quit everything other than hard drugs. It's hard to quit hard drugs, right? But when it comes to fighting, New Year's resolutions will work out. Most people quit this stuff. If you don't quit, then you will be helped by so many people along the way. And you will realize how much you owe to the game and to the people who helped you along the way. And the only way to show your gratitude for that is to try and help the people who are coming along behind you. I've spent over 30 years doing this, and a lot of people have come along behind me. We've had so many challenges. The internet and online gaming has drawn people away, and we've got sort of divided attention spans like we've never had. But I think that guys like me, just the oldest rats in the barn, we feel obligated to give back what we can, and that's only strengthened if you have the good fortune to serve the people's crown, or if you become a director. You you realize how much good you can do, um, and how much damage. And I think that sense of responsibility just grows as you grow in the game. That's my best answer. It sort of grows on you as you grow in the game. The ones it doesn't grow on, we tend to run out. We tend to run them out.
Perfect. Perfect. Great answer. That answered it for me. Hopefully it answered. He's actually in the conference, so he probably caught all that. So with that, I'm going to open it up to anybody else. If you have questions, just go ahead and come on camera or open up your microphone and let us know. Looks like there's a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Big Ren.
No, I'll shut up.
All right. So in the questions from Michael, it says, have noticed that warfighters wear full pauldrons, whereas tourney fighters usually don't. Any particular reason for the exclusion of pauldrons?
Okay, so if you're an attorney, if you're in and I have several different types of pauldrons depending on what kind of combat I'm doing. If I'm an attorney that's going to be all pole arms, I might wear pauldrons. Or if I'm going to face a pole arm fighter, a good one, I might wear pauldrons. But a lot of us figure that most of the armor we need is beaten out into the shape of our shield. And you're not going to take the kind of repeated damage that you take in melee. You got the Penzik for a week, you got a Strela for a week, you got a Gulf Wars for a week, and you can take a lot of damage to your shoulders. Being a taller fighter and a sword and shield fighter primarily, I just don't get hit in the shoulders a lot. And so when I started out, the only shoulders we had would bang against your helmet when you do different techniques. And I just found them to be uncomfortable. They tend to either move to the front or move to the back. We're just hanging a shoulder from 2 points on the gambeson. And I think a lot of it is that we didn't have a lot of Spanish collars, full arms. And so a lot of people just find them to be uncomfortable. And so they make a choice to omit those for tourney fight, right? Because in a regular tourney, like crown tourney, you're going to fight anywhere from 8 to 12, 15 fights, whatever it is, and you're really focused on an individual opponent. It's going to be very difficult for them to hit you in. That's just 1 inch above the knee, the temple, inside thigh, right? That's where most of your shots come. Or you're going to get poked, right? You're going to get thrust. So shoulders just aren't a big thing. Now, your elbow, your forearm, your wrist, they're moving between you and your opponent all the time. Those tend to get a little bit of attention, right? But upper arm, shoulder has never been a high priority for me in singles.
Same for me. I don't ever use shoulders, even in big melees or anything like that. All right. So the next question that I have from Mary is more about your mental mindset when you're fighting and training, and what have you found the most useful when it comes to that?
Well, Duke Anton, who was my night, he was over here last night. We were watching Paul's video and Paul's presentation. And we were talking about, have we known any fighters who didn't start out as good fighters and became great fighters? Because the tendency is to think that we all come to it, I come from a sports background, that we all come to it with a winning attitude, a winning mindset, a competitive mindset. But we very quickly came up with 4 or 5 Dukes who don't come from that kind of background. So, and this is sort of a long way around to saying, as Dietrich was saying, as Paul was saying, you have to believe that you're going to win every fight. You have to believe you're going to win every fight. Now, you're not going to win every fight, but you have taken the time, you've dressed up, you've traveled to the event, and you're taking the field. You need to take the field like you're going to win every fight. And and I know that's a very difficult attitude to develop for a lot of people who come from a different background than competitive athletics, but it can be developed. I have helped people develop that. Now, how do you develop that? It's just the self-confidence of knowing that you are part of a relatively small group of people who are motivated by the same interests, who love the same thing, and that you belong on that field, right? That is your field. It's the attitude, same attitude a good lawyer takes in the courtroom. This is my courtroom. It's not the judge's courtroom. It's not the other guy's. It's my courtroom. That is your field. That is your field. And at the end of the day, it's still going to be your field. And that's the attitude you have to develop, knowing that everybody else is coming with the same attitude. And it's not a braggadocious thing. It's not an ugly thing. You're not going to go out there and talk junk, but that's your field, you know, and you're going out there to take that field. You have as much right to it as anybody else, so why shouldn't you win? If you put in the time, you put in the work, that's your field. It's your day to win. And so that's how you have to look at it.
Beautiful answer. She says, thank you for answering that question. All right, that's all the questions that I'm getting in. So Bigger Brand, feel free to jump on again without me interrupting you.
Hey, you're right, man. This is your show. I'm just some monkey. So there's a lot of different things that everybody could say makes a good fighter, or makes somebody that has the potential to be a good fighter. If you could pick 2 or 3 of those aspects, what would you say those would be?
The first thing is you gotta have a bad memory. And what I mean by that is, you know, Tom Brady's great. I don't care if you like the Patriots or not. You know, I'm not a Patriots fan, but Tom Brady's a great quarterback, right? Tom Brady's a great quarterback. Tom Brady and quarterbacks at his level, they throw an interception. You think that changes anything they're going to do the next time they come out, next time they take the field, the next series of downs? No. No. They are going to throw their passes, work their progressions. They're going to try to drive their team to the end zone. They're absolutely, they have no memory of throwing that pick that the D-back ran back 20 yards, 30 yards, maybe into the end zone. He danced around. Nope, that's gone. It's gone. You got to put it behind you. And that's the only way to deal with bad fights. Can you learn from them? Can you do the film work? Yes. But, I mean, if you take a bad beat on a Saturday, the next time you go out on Saturday, you need to put that behind you. That's one thing. The second thing I would say is just relentlessness. You know, if it were easy, everybody'd do it. And, you know, if it were easy, there's no way I could still win a crown at 52, right? It's hard. It's hard. And I intend to stay good as long as I can stay good. So you're going to have to climb over a pile of bodies to get where you want to get. And that takes a relentlessness, okay? It takes a relentlessness that I'm not giving up. And that is one of the hardest qualities to find in a fighter and in life. It's you're going to get knocked around, you're going to lose, and you're going to come back again, which is closely related to having a bad memory. But it's relentlessness about it. And then the third thing is openness. You don't win any, I mean, you don't learn anything from, usually, you don't learn anything from your wins, right? The 87th person that I defeated with a flat snap, the 17th person I one-shotted in a day, I didn't learn anything from that, other than that they had not developed to the point where they knew that from the set of my shoulder, they knew how to read. They didn't know how to read what was coming next, right? But I didn't learn anything from that. But I went out to Artemisia a couple years ago with Al-Anon, and I mean, he beat me like I owed him money. And, we were just doing pickups, and I did not like that one bit, right? But I learned from it. And Sean ate my lunch that day too. So, that was not my day. But I learned from it, and I kept going. I didn't go, oh, take these strawberry leaves back. I'm done, right? Wasn't my day. But I come back. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's all great.
I like your moose, by the way.
Yeah, that my grandfather that is no longer here got that moose. Now it gets to hang and look cute in my house.
Mooses go. I like that one very much.
I have a quick question.
Go for it.
How do you teach people to let things go? I find it very hard for a lot of fighters to let things go, whether it's their perceptions of who they're facing. So they end up facing the construct they put in their own head instead of what's out there on the field or what just happened in the last exchange or what somebody did to them, said to them, jerked them around, played games with their head, whatever it is. How do you teach people to let that stuff go? I know how I do it, but how do you teach it?
I saw a sign the other day in an office that said, be kind to everybody, because everybody's going through a tragedy that you don't know about. And what I try to do when talking to students who can't get over a hump, or they think somebody's ugly to them, or somebody always ass raps them, or whatever it is, I was like, you have no idea. We're here on a Saturday on this beautiful field with these waving banners and these canvas tents, and we're fighting. I mean, you have no idea what that guy's Monday morning is going to be like. So you have no idea how his wife treats him when he gets home. You have no idea what's going on. And sometimes we do have an idea, right? Sometimes we do know, right? So it's perspective. You just have to help them find a perspective from which they can go, hey, I got 4 limbs that work, and all my hair or whatever it is, and I'm out here and I'm fighting, and that guy has got his own issues, or that guy may be a duke because he won 2 tournaments, but I'm going to take that son of a gun's leg, right? And if it's not today, it's going to be next week, I get surprised plenty by young fighters who come out of nowhere and just, carve me up. It happens. And like I said, I have a poor memory. Doesn't bother me a week later, but it makes that guy's week, right? It makes that guy's week. So I try to congratulate and encourage the small victories. And I think that's small victories become big victories. And really, who we're fighting is ourselves, right? That's who we're fighting every time, is to be a better fighter ourselves each time we go out. It won't work that way, right? It isn't a steady progression, right? It's peaks and valleys. If you're anything like me, it's peaks and valleys and, plateaus that I can't get off of, and the whole thing. But, it's that's what I try to do. It's compassion, and it's being open and remembering when you couldn't figure out, when I couldn't figure out how to get to Duke Michael's head before he flat knocked me out, right? And I just remember trying to put myself back there and think about what either helped me or what would have helped me. What could somebody have said in that situation that would have helped me, right? I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but
that's helpful. It's a little bit different approach, but I like it. Thank you, and thanks for coming on and sharing with us.
That's my pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, perfect, great answer. I think that the plateaus and stuff and the peaks and valleys that you're talking about kind of goes with everything in life. anything you do, any skill that you try to learn, you're going to have those moments that you suck, and you're going to have those moments that you shine, and then you're going to have those moments that you're extremely frustrated because you're like, I'm not improving. But what do you do? So looks like an ugly red samurai just decided to come on camera. His name is Lash. He's actually part of my house as well. He actually just got his baldric not too long ago, just to throw him under the bus on that one, because I know he hates when people give him praise. But good job on that. And go ahead and unmute your mic and ask away, brother. Can't hear you. Nothing yet. Still no audio.
Is the volume down, maybe? Just the volume down? We got a red mute light.
Yeah, it looks like your microphone's still off. Nope, nothing. If you need to, type it in the chat, and I will ask it again. Ask it. While he's working on that, Vigabrand asks, what Duke Michael are you referring to?
Oh, I'm talking about Duke Michael of Bedford, the first king of Atlantia.
Okay. There's also a very renowned Duke Michael O'Brien from Artemisia that recently retired for back injuries, and he is consistently teaching us all the bad things we do at fighter practice. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't him, because that'd make us smile real big if it was. So
No, but there are several Duke Michaels. There's Michael Mamashir in the day from SCA. Amazing fighter.
Yep.
Lash figured his mic out yet?
Doesn't look like it. Looks like he's very lost in thought. Let's bring him on video. Looks like he's typing.
So while he's typing, we're getting ready to do coronation April 4th on lockdown. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Looks like Duke Timothy did a court via remote too, like this. So
Yeah, we'll stream it for everybody.
All right. Lash asks in the chat box, when you were elevated, did you notice a change in the way you were treated as a fighter, and how did you deal with it?
No, and I'll tell you why. When I was knighted, probably 6 months before I got knighted, people started treating me like a knight. I was fighting at knight level. I was a local marshal. I was doing a lot of service stuff. And then I was knighted in August of 1992. And then I entered and won my first crown in November of 1992. And so that was a whole different, I didn't even get a chance to be a baby knight, because suddenly I was prince, and then I was king. And then that period between, after that reign, that's when things got weird. But I was lucky in that I was supported by a lot of experienced people, and I was probably knighted. Some people we knight maybe on the way up, some people we knight on the way down. They probably made the right decision. I was probably knighted right at the right time for where I was in terms of my development as a fighter and in the kingdom, my place in the kingdom. So I just kept doing the jobs that I had, and then, like I said, I won crown. The hardest thing for new knights is being at the end of one path and the beginning of another. And if they weren't looking beyond their knighthood, sometimes they get lost, right? Because they think, oh, everything will be great when I get this white belt. That nothing could be further from the truth. You're just getting your teaching certificate, basically. And more is going to be expected of you, and you're going to have to deliver on that. And you're going to have to keep working and keep developing. So like I said, there's no magic bullets, but I really didn't experience that. Now, when I became Prince, obviously there was a big difference in the way that people treated me, and King, but not from getting knighted, but my experience may not be typical. If that makes sense.
I did a little adjustment. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
there it is.
All right. So going along with that, the reason I was asking is because now that I have that little strip, the people I've been fighting for years, for the last 4 or 5 years, are now treating me completely different. They're treating me, as if they walk out on the field with somebody like Havek or Hansa, and that's just not true. And how do I've asked this of other people, but how do you stop
Okay.
that? How do you keep them from doing that?
No, let them do that. Let them do that. You want them to fight you like you're Havek or Hansa. I mean, and then you will earn that, right? I mean, let them treat you like you're Havek or Hansa, right? And you're going to get everybody's best fight, right? Like when I first got knighted, the guys, that's when I first got knighted, that jogs my memory. When I first got knighted, right after you get knighted at Penzig, right? All the other squires who didn't get knighted that year, they come haunt you on the field, right? They want to see if you were all that, right? So, I think that's great. I think what that shows is that either they think you've made the grade, or they're testing to see if you've made the grade. And either way, that's fine, because that means you will get everybody's best fight. And I think that's awesome. So, if you can, so what that means, a lot of these guys are leaping and screaming, probably. I mean, they're coming at you. And what is your principal style? What do you fight?
Well, actually, it's kind of the opposite. They're extremely tentative. They're not giving me their fight that before they'd crush me, and we would have good exchanges, good fights. Now it's completely different. Even from my black company brothers and sisters, even from my family that I've been fighting for 20 years.
All right. Then this may not be an answer you like, but psychology is a big part of fighting. You need to crush them without mercy. I'm absolutely serious, because they'll get over it. They'll get over it. That problem, okay? If they don't want to bring you a fight, then, and we're talking a tournament, whatever, right? Put them down. Put them down. Put them down until they get over it. Put them down. Put them down all the way to winning crown. But the psychology of it, like my fight in practice is entirely different than my fight in tournament. My fight in practice, I leave things open for people. I slow things down. You know what I mean? I do all this kind of stuff. But you go to a tournament, they treat you like that. A guy comes out and you roll your shoulders, and they freeze and drop their shield, stick them in the face and drop them, and go to your next fight. You're a master. Drop them. I'm absolutely serious. And when I first got knighted, the hardest thing for me is going to the next and the next and the next practice after you get knighted. You're getting everything out of your bag, you're putting it on, and the last thing you pull out is that white belt. And you look around, because there's a little imposter syndrome, right? You look around to see if everybody's going to look at you like, is he really putting that belt on? Does he really think he earned that? And then you put that thing on. Well, I'm telling you right, the way that you earn it is by walking out, owning that field. If you earn it every day from here to the day you lay down, you're going to have to earn that ball. And I'm absolutely serious. You can't make them give you the fight that you want them to give you until they get tired of taking a whooping. I mean, and it's a competitive game. So if you have found you get an advantage just because they hung a strip of leather across your shoulder, use it. Use it until they take it from you.
Sounds like that's more on them than it is on you. And
Totally on them. You're not supposed to. You should. I mean, what's your alternative? Throw the fight. You know, invite them in. Leave
That's
yourself
not gonna
open.
happen.
Right. Well, there you go.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very
And I want to meet you on the field sometime, by the way.
absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's a great time.
we're there's a couple of us that are going to try to, as Black Company, we're going to try to make it out to Penzic 50 years. So hopefully Lash decides that he wants to go out there, and we'll make sure to come meet you on the field or afterwards and share one of those lovely home or those brews that you've been teasing us with on camera this whole time. So
Sweet and Josie Brown Ale. It's local.
So, all right, guys. Are there any last questions before we come to a close? Now's the time to get them out there. Three, two, one. All right. That is it, guys. Thank you, Your Majesty, His Royal Majesty Cuan, for coming on and giving us his 5 methods of becoming a better fighter. I loved that it was a unique experience talking about more equipment-based stuff, because I've been you can't see it on camera, but I've been actually dealing with some of those issues with my new arms digging into my wrists, and I've had to cut them down. So I definitely could relate to that, and I'm sure a lot of other people can too. There's nothing worse than an armor pinch, and
Yeah.
so. And I got some new ideas on how to fix it, and that you were talking about Under Armour that goes on your wrist here, that once you expose it, it gets harder.
The little sleeve with an insert, and the insert hardens when you take out a foil pouch. You put it right for batters. You put it right there. And protects your wrist. Yep.
Gonna look into those for myself, because I know that same shot that you're talking about, when you come down over there and you just hit the edge of that shield, it hurts a lot, makes your whole hand go completely numb. So again, appreciate you coming on, and I'm definitely looking forward to talking with you more about some stuff that we can move forward with. So, all right, guys, with that being said, do you have any last words or thoughts that you want to throw at us, or are you good?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and I wish you all, everybody, success and joy of fighting now and in the future.
Okay. Perfect, man. Well, everybody, thanks again for coming on. Without this, actually, if you didn't know, I posted today that we made the SCA main page on Facebook. They shared Paul's interview last night on the main page, so I guess we're doing some good stuff for the society. So that made me feel really good, and I couldn't do it without obviously the guest hosts coming on the camera, and also all of you guys liking and sharing the videos throughout the known world. So I appreciate your support and everything. Couldn't do it without you. And then the other thing, there was one more thing I wanted. We went international. We actually have somebody in the video tonight that's from Australia. That also made me feel pretty fantastic that we went global. So, all right, now that I'm done bragging, we're going to push this little end button here and say good night. Thanks, guys.
Good night.